Welcome to Analytics Café, where usually we talk how analytics change a business, and today with Yigit we'll explore how analytics may change the world. Yigit, would you agree with a statement that some people look at data and see numbers, and others look at data and see faces?
I think when it comes to collecting data in today's world and storing it somewhere, we are not short of resources and capabilities. There are tons of data everywhere, and there are many different means of collecting and putting it somewhere. But to actually get some sense out of this data in a meaningful way, in a contextual way, that will help us improve a certain aspect of life. That's where things get a little bit complicated. So by looking at numbers and seeing a face, what I understand is getting a true insight about an individual or a group or a certain situation that will help us improve different aspects of that.
But do you see some specific aspect of our life when we can see that?
I think there are many areas of improvement. If you look at it in the commercial world, of course, data and advanced techniques on the analytics side is being used extensively to better market the products and better service the consumers' needs. And I think it's relatively very mature. But if you look at our day-to-day lives, if you look at as citizens, as people, how we're benefiting from data, I think there is a great room for improvement. Like one of the examples could be like in the healthcare. How many times have we visited a certain healthcare center, a practitioner, and despite the fact that we've been there a million times before, we are still numbers. And somebody still looks at the file and looks at the last couple of historical events that took place and make a decision about us without really seeing the big picture. I think there's great room for improvement when it comes to using that data on the healthcare side, and maybe have more proactive insights provided to citizens, to individuals about what would be the better way to manage their health in terms of, let's say, maybe public advices, awareness. This part is still missing, I think, when it comes to using data.
And what about other important aspects of our life, like, for instance, education?
Education is the same. It's still, when it comes to the assessment of the students, there's a big part of it which is very generic, like, through tests, through standardized assessments, we create numbers again around individuals. And on the other side, maybe the education provider, the individuals, teachers, they have a very subjective view of the different students' performance. But do we really have an intelligent system that analyzes all the data, all the patterns, trends, and maybe have an early warning system about certain students' academic performance and some recommendations on how to fix that in a very effective way to ensure that the overall education quality improves and the academic success is improved? I don't think we are there yet, and analytics could do that.
What are the most innovative areas where we can take advantage of analytics?
Of course, besides these two, let's say, major areas, there are many aspects of our daily life where we could get a lot of benefit from analytics. In the area of, let's say, prevention of fire or crimes, we could have much better services. Let's say, imagine an intelligence system where there's a constant risk assessment of where the next fire could happen. That could save a lot of lives. When it comes to public safety, what would be the hotspots for crime, depending on the day, depending on the conditions at that point in time, to make sure that the law enforcement is paying enough attention there. So the question to ask is, are we really harnessing the value from the data in these areas? Another thing is when, God forbid, if there's a natural disaster, there are examples of analytics being used to make sure that the right kind of help is sent to the right people or places at the right time. Optimization of all of these efforts. And overall, I think in the public sphere, we need to look at how is our tax money really effectively being used when we are providing these services, when it comes to deciding what kind of infrastructure to build, a road, a new service provider. Are we really using the whole historical data and understand what are the important factors using the power of analytics to provide better services?
But the way you are explaining this, it seems that everything is so simple and actually easy to implement. But in reality, we know perfectly that it's not so easy. So from your perspective, what is really the most difficult part here to implement, to take advantage of data?
So there are a couple of things. One is, I think it's a change of attitude. Data is not for collecting, it's for using. So what we see, especially in the public sphere, is that there's a lot of data collection happening, but when it comes to using this for actual decision making, that part of the culture may not be very, very mature. So we have to look at the policy making process and assess the role of data-driven decision-making in that policy-making process. So I think it's a mindset change. Second thing is when it comes to this 360 degrees that you just mentioned around the citizen, in the public sphere there are many silos of information, and the information exchange between different functions is not very effective. So if you look at only one part of the truth, then it is very difficult to come up with something intelligent. Analytics needs that wide view of what's happening in the world to really generate insights. So efficient information sharing between different functions within the public sphere is also very important here.
Well, definitely this is the subject we could talk a lot about it. Today we touch only a few points. But I think we are convinced that this is the direction we should follow, right? And we are convinced that there is a value at the end of this journey.
Absolutely.